We have another case of a small business owner who is arguing that their religious beliefs should exempt them from any sort of equitable legislation or mandate from the state. This time, again, in Colorado, we have a website designer who is trying to get into or disrupt the wedding website space, and also wants to argue that she should not be held to the same standard as other businesses and wants to exclude same-sex couples. What is this case, Mark?
So I don't want to contest anything that you've said so far. I think that's accurate, but I do want to dive a little bit deeper into the background because I think it's important to understanding the case itself. So this is called the 303 Creative. And this is a website designer who has never made and never been asked to make a website for a wedding, for a married couple. She does commercial websites for like businesses. She does political websites. She does not do wedding websites, and she's never been asked. That immediately makes this very different from cases like Masterpiece Cake Shop, which involved a same-sex couple who was actually turned away by a baker and told, I'm not going to sell you a cake. A case like Arlene's Flowers out of Washington State, where a florist said, I will not serve you. I will not make flowers for your ceremony. Several cases involving photographers, cases involving venue owners. All of those involved actual discrimination. This case does not. This is about a website designer who walked into federal court and simply declared, I want a decision saying that I have the theoretical right in the future to discriminate against LGBTQ people. Why did she do that? Because for many years, she was a struggling website designer, very much undistinguished. Then a few years back, a group called Alliance Defending Freedom decided to take her on as a client. This group is called ADF for short. They are a very far-right kind of Christian nationalist, Christian supremacist group that tries to push the courts and the law as far to the right as possible, especially when it comes to LGBTQ equality and reproductive freedom.
Is this a Leonard Leo group?
Leonard Leo is involved with this group in some ways, for sure. He has his tentacles in like all of these different groups.
Right.
Many of his proteges are involved with ADF as well. So ADF took her on as a client, and you can look in the Wayback Machine and sort of see like the transformation. They were like, you need to change your website to, instead of talking just about your work, to talk about how your work is devoted to your faith in Jesus Christ, and that everything you do is expressive speech on behalf of supporting Jesus Christ and your Lord. And if you do that, we will represent you, and we will make you a public figure and bring a high profile to your case. And, you know, folks like Jack Phillips, the anti-gay cake baker, he's become like a celebrity, and Christian conservatives love going to his shop. And so this woman was given the opportunity. Her name is Lori Smith. She was given the opportunity to become a star on the right, and she took it. And so I think the reason why ADF manufactured this case was because with all of those previous disputes, there were two kind of narratives and an actual victim. So when a same-sex couple went to Jack Phillips' shop and was turned away, you know, Jack Phillips said, oh, I'm Christian. Jesus told me I can't sell them a cake. Like, I'm the victim here. But that couple was also able to go and do press and get profiles and be on the Supreme Court steps during the case and say, we were discriminated against. We are the victims. And that created a very big problem for ADF because, you know, people have empathy when others face discrimination. People have a natural desire to, most people, I would even say, have a natural desire to see folks treated fairly in the marketplace. That's like a fundamental American principle post Jim Crow, right? And so this case was manufactured to avoid that. And so even before we get to like the merits, and I don't even want to spend much time on the merits, like, look, you know, they're gonna say she has a First Amendment right to discriminate against gay people. They're going to say she has a free speech right to refuse to sell websites or make websites for maybe anyone she doesn't want to, maybe just gay people because they're lesser than. You know, the scope of the holding is unclear, whether they'll just target LGBTQ folks or whether they'll go big and say like a racist website designer doesn't have to sell to Black people. But they're going to have some kind of bad decision. And what I want folks to take away from this is that it's not even a real ruling, right? This is not a dispute between two parties over the scope of their respective rights. This is a political case that was engineered to give this Supreme Court an opportunity to roll back civil rights laws in all 50 states, really, and to allow anti-gay discrimination cases to prevail in court, even when the individual who wants to discriminate doesn't even have any proof or history or record that she's been asked to serve the people she wants to discriminate against.
Is that something like what you laid out, that Leo or this broader right-wing machine is involved in engineering this case? Is that something the court would even consider?
So in past cases, yes. And in fact, coming up this next term, the court is going to consider whether civil rights activists have standing to be testers, where they challenge various laws by sort of saying, hey, will you rent an apartment to me even though I have a disability? Will you take my job application even though I'm Black? Will you whatever? They're called testers. They've been doing this for many years. It's like a hallowed kind of thing. The Supreme Court's going to take on that case and decide whether those folks even have standing to sue. So on the left side, when it comes to civil rights, when it comes to seeing whether the landlord is racist or the employer is Islamophobic or whatever, the court might pull back. But on the right side, I think they're going to go all in with these kind of engineered cases, because what they're going to say is, this website designer has a plausible threat of enforcement. She is afraid that the state is going to bring some kind of civil case against her in the future for refusing to sell to a gay couple. So she has standing to sue. And meanwhile, the testers who are going to renters and going to landlords and employers and whatever, and seeing if they're going to discriminate against them, those folks don't have standing to sue, so their cases will get tossed out of court.
So frustrating. It's just so transparent. Like it's so maddening. How do you keep a cool head while you're learning about all this stuff?
That is a conversation that could last a very long time. Many hours of therapy have helped. I guess I would just say it's my job, and I like my job in the abstract, and I think I do work that is important and has an impact. And it is imperative for me to set my own personal emotional reactions aside in the course of doing this work, because otherwise it would be impossible.